Instagram poetry must be stopped. Instagram poetry must be stopped. Instagram poetry must be stopped.
Instagram poetry, as opposed to poetry on Instagram, usually follows the pattern of being a couplet full of trite generalities and ubiquitous metaphors, and with some kind of pretty, vaguely related image in the background. It's colorful so it catches your eyes, short and palatable so you won't scroll past it without reading it, and relatable so when you read it you feel compelled to share it. And I'm sure you can guess my opinion on it. So today, we're going to be looking through and analyzing poetry from an Instagram account called JH Hard. Disclaimer. I'm not a poet or a professional writer. I'm just a deadbeat student after a creative writing degree. I'm speaking as a reader, not an expert. I think about you constantly. Psst, not a poem. And that's a brilliant start, isn't it? And he has to tell people that generic statement is not, in fact, one of his. That's not telling at all. And that's not a comment on the quality of his work, is it? Certainly not. Because I imagine when Maya Angelou walks into the room and says, "Hello, how are you? How's your day been?" Everyone says, "Ooh, Maya! Ooh, is that one of your poems? Ooh, is that one from your book? Ah, so profound! Ah, so beautiful! Ooh, tell us another one, Maya!" There's no poem that can contain all I feel for you. For Christ's sake, at least try. And this is just lazy and boring. And people often write about love like it's something new, which is understandable because it feels new. And it's not much of a consolation to a dying man to say, "Stop your moaning. You're not the first one to die. People have been dying for millions of years. You're nothing special." But listen, I'm gonna say it anyway. Your love is not new. Your love is not special. And your love is not deeper or richer or more incredible than anyone else's love. And millions of poets have put love into words before you. Wait a minute. It's simply impossible to jump over the moon. It's much too high up in the sky. I'm going back to bed. Absolutely ridiculous. Yet, while bloating up love to an imponderable degree, like something that just crashed down from outer space, the poem is simultaneously counting on the fact that love is universal, and it doesn't have any legs to stand on otherwise. He's relying entirely on relatability to carry this poem. Instead of describing the feeling, or what he loves about the person, he assumes that his readers will know exactly what feeling he's describing, and that he doesn't need to explain more because everyone knows how it feels to love someone, and they'll just project their own feelings and experiences into those generic lines.
I love your hands cause your fingerprints are like no other. I love your eyes and their bluish, brownish, greenish color.
And see me? I assumed the poem was about love, yet it would make the same amount of sense if it was about hatred, disgust, and bigotry. There is no poem that can contain all I feel for you. How beautiful it is to wake up and love you all over again. I swear this is ripped word for word from a Hallmark film script. And not even a shred of creativity with this one. It was a prime example of showing and not telling, again relying on cheap relatability and making the reader write your poem for you in their heads based on their own experiences. One-size-fits-all poems are god-awful because there's this paradox in writing. The more specifically a writer describes an event, the more people relate to it. It engages them more. So instead of saying something like, "Her hair smelled good," say something like, "Her evergreen hair smelled like chocolate chip cookies." Because a lot of people can probably relate to the first one, liking the smell of a girl's hair. Fewer people can relate to a green-haired girl smelling of cookies, but the second one is much more compelling. Hart's poem reminds me of a spoken word poem by Rod McEwen called 4SC. It goes like this. "I do not know what is more beautiful than your tangled black hair on a white pillow. I've thought about it all afternoon and decided not even butterflies or children or the blossoms in the hill above the beach can compare. If I had money, I would not buy a comb or red ribbon to decorate it. Instead, I might chart a world so you can walk in them and everyone can see your hair." McEwen creates an image rather than telling the reader to trawl their memories for their own image. Yes, it doesn't follow the theme of renewing love every morning, as Hards did, but I think the repetitive image of the hair on the pillow, and the grand way in which he describes it, somewhat captures the feeling. It seems to be describing the personal ecstatic experience of waking up next to someone you love, but it's not one size fits all. And even if you've never woken up next to a girl with spidery black hair spread across a white pillow, it's such a strong image that you can really see it. It also romanticizes the mundane, which Mr. Hart attempted to do, but didn't quite accomplish because of his lack of detail. You only call me when it's raining outside, and you save your moments of sunshine for someone else.
But now you only call me when you're feeling depressed. When you feel I'm so far from your mind.
And for goodness sake, this metaphor is much too obvious, much too trite for you to lose your nerve and guff it up halfway through. He just had to explain that he means your moments of sunshine, not the sun in the sky. He had to explain that to his readership, who he obviously thinks is made up of toddlers, that he actually means happiness. Ooh, when he say rain, he means sad time. Oh no, sad time. Oh, but when he say sunny, he mean happy. Yay, happy sun. Oh, happy sun. And it's absolutely ridiculous. I hate it when writers cater to the least common denominator. I've noticed that often writers do assume that people won't be on their wavelengths, and they're tempted to explain their figurative language in their writing. I think writers should generally avoid doing that. But if they really think that their figurative language isn't enough to lead their reader through their thoughts, they should try explaining it with more figurative language. Just extend the metaphor. And people find meaning in everything. If you vomit some alphabet soup on the floor, people will find words in it. And look at all the theories that are about. Minute details analyzed within fandoms to lines being drawn out of thin air by conspiracy theorists. Look at this image. This is amodal completion. There's no triangle drawn, but we can all see a triangle. This is what Hart's poem did. My point is that to take people by the hand and walk them through a metaphor is to underestimate their abilities, because people are really good at sensing the unsaid generally. Also, honorable mention, don't take their shit if they clearly never gave a shit. It's one of them You Go Girl poems, but all it's doing is making me think of people trading shit around. Awful. That's the image it's creating in my head, so I wanted to pass that on to you. Here you go. I know I've been talking about Hart as a figure of my disappointment in the modern state of popular poetry, but he does actually have poetic ability. There's this lovely poem that he wrote called I Break Into the Sea. I break into the sea to steal a bit of freedom. The fish are terrible security guards. They just let me walk right in. Walking in. I'm the incredible shrinking man. The waterline feels like a cold string rolling up my chest. The shoreline disappears like everything perfect. I don't feel like a body in a body of water. Can you check it to see if the water is touching me? This must be what the universe feels like. The untethered string of a heart, the letting go, and I will never break out of the sea. I will do my time while I wait for the wave to break into me. That's genuinely a lovely, lovely poem. It's only a shame that some of his good poems are avalanched by a bunch of dull, lazy couplets. Anyway, that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Instagram poetry must be stopped. 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 Instagram poetry must be stopped.